Have you ever wondered why meekness and humility are so highly valued in the Christian faith? In our everyday life, we often come across these two virtues, meekness and humility. They are like two sides of the same coin, often intertwined, yet possessing distinct characteristics. They form an integral part of our moral compass and shape our relationships with others. But why do they hold such a special place in the Christian faith? What makes them so significant? These are questions that many of us have pondered upon. And to find the answers, we need to delve into the greatest source of wisdom and guidance, the Holy Bible. It provides us with a profound understanding of these virtues, their significance, and how they should reflect in our lives. Let's start with humility, a trait that is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, but in reality, it's a sign of strength. Humility is a mental attitude of lowliness, the opposite of pride. It's about acknowledging that all we have and are, we owe to the triune God, who is dynamically operative on our behalf. It's about willingly submitting ourselves under the hand of God. And then we have meekness, a virtue that's an expression of inner strength. It refers to a person who sees their role in relation to God as that of a servant, and thus quietly and gently subjects themselves to God's will. It's about being gentle and patient, even when faced with adversity. In the Bible, these virtues are not just preached, they are exemplified. Jesus Christ, the supreme example of humility and meekness, demonstrated these virtues through his actions. He served others, washed their feet, and submitted to the will of the Father. So, as we embark on this insightful journey into the scriptures, we aim to explore these virtues in depth. We'll look at biblical verses that speak of humility and meekness and discuss their impact on our lives. We'll unravel the intricate relationship between these two virtues and how they guide us in our Christian journey. Now let's embark on this insightful journey into the scriptures. Humility, a virtue that's often misunderstood, is profoundly highlighted in the Bible. The Greek word tapeinophrosine is used to describe this virtue, translated as lowliness of mind, humility, or even self-abasement. But what does the Bible tell us about humility? Let's start with Colossians 3:12. Here, we are urged to clothe ourselves with humility, among other virtues. This is not about wearing humility like a garment that can be taken off at will. Instead, it's about embodying humility in our thoughts, words, and actions, making it an integral part of our character. Moving on to Romans 12:3, we are advised not to think of ourselves more highly than we ought to. This verse encourages us to have a realistic perception of ourselves, acknowledging our strengths without boasting, and recognizing our weaknesses without self-deprecation. It's about understanding our worth without letting it inflate our ego. Ephesians 4:2 takes it a step further by linking humility with patience and bearing with one another in love. This suggests that humility is not just about how we view ourselves, but also about how we relate with others. It's about putting others before ourselves, being patient with their flaws, and loving them despite their shortcomings. Finally, 1 Peter 5:5 advises us to clothe ourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. This verse reminds us that humility is not a sign of weakness, but a source of strength that attracts God's favor. In summary, the Bible presents humility as a virtue that transcends self-perception. It's about acknowledging our dependence on God, recognizing the value in others, and living in a way that reflects this understanding. It's a mental attitude of lowliness, the opposite of pride, developed in us by the Spirit of God, where we acknowledge that all we have and are, we owe to God. But humility doesn't stand alone. It's often paired with another virtue, meekness. Meekness, another virtue that complements humility, is also emphasized in the Holy Scriptures. A key example is found in the book of Numbers 12:3, where Moses, a central figure in the Bible, is described as very meek, more than all men that were on the face of the earth. This verse underscores the importance of meekness, even in those who lead. In the New Testament, in the book of Matthew 5:5, Jesus Christ himself extols the virtue of meekness in his Sermon on the Mount. He speaks the words, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." This beatitude, or blessing, signifies the high regard for meekness in Christian teachings. The Epistle of James, in chapter 1, verse 21, also underscores the role of meekness. It encourages believers to receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. Here, meekness is associated with receptivity to God's word and the transformative power it holds. But what does meekness really mean in a Christian's life? It is not about being weak or submissive. Rather, it involves a conscious choice to exercise restraint, to show patience, and to demonstrate gentleness, even in the face of adversity or provocation. It is about recognizing our own limitations and the infinite wisdom and power of God. Like humility, meekness is an attitude of the heart, a willingness to yield to the will of God, and to treat others with kindness and respect. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew term for meek, anah, referred to a person who viewed their role in relation to God as that of a servant, quietly and gently submitting to God's will. It was a term used to describe the truly pious or faithful, those who were humble and gentle towards others. Humility and meekness, as we see, are two sides of the same coin, each enriching and deepening the other. They are virtues that lead us closer to God, helping us to live a life of grace, peace, and spiritual fulfillment. Understanding these virtues is one thing, but how do they impact our lives? Well, the power of humility and meekness lies in their transformative potential. When we embrace humility, we foster an attitude of gratitude. We recognize that we owe everything we have and are to the divine. This recognition naturally leads to a willingness to submit ourselves under the hand of God, as mentioned in 1 Peter 5:5-7. On the other hand, meekness teaches us to view our roles in relation to God as that of a servant, quietly and gently submitting to his will. This disposition extends to our interactions with others, promoting kindness, empathy, and understanding. It influences our decisions, encouraging us to prioritize the needs of others and to act selflessly. In essence, these virtues shape our character, making us better individuals. They remind us to stay grounded, to serve others, and to maintain a deep respect for the divine. Embracing humility and meekness, as the Bible teaches, can truly transform our lives for the better.